Hello there my lovely frugal friends. We are doing our next video looking at a frugal cookbook. I've said before, I've been to the library, I've ordered all the things, I'm getting them all free because I'm borrowing them. But we're going to decide whether or not these are a buy, borrow or bin book. The book that we're doing this week is this one. So it is called Beat the Budget by Mimi Harrison. You can see the bottom there. And blurb. With easy, delicious recipes, Mimi Harrison, the cook behind the Beat the Budget platform, shows that tasty, satisfying food does not have to be expensive. Make a wee bougie brunch or a midweek one-pot gnocchi bolognese bake or a speedy miso noodle bowl in under 15 minutes. Includes recipes costing £1.25 per portion or less, tips on how to meal prep, methods for your air fryer or slow cooker, simple meal plans and shopping lists, smart budget-friendly swaps and tips. Everything you need to take the stress out of meal times. Well, I have been through, I have picked off, as you can see, a number of blue tabs. We're going to go through the book and have a look at maybe three or four recipes from the book and see how they work out. How does the description work, and whether the ingredients are quite simple, and also whether or not the method is easy to use. One thing I will do with this book is I will pick recipes that I have got the ingredients in for. We are not going out specially to buy ingredients. We're using what we have, so that will limit some of the recipe choices, and there is a possibility we might substitute out some ingredients if we really need to. So have a look at the recipes I've chosen and we'll come back at the end and have a chat a bit more about the book. This is tonight's recipe, mushroom rigatoni ragu. I think it must be popular because the page is the muckiest one in the book. That's what it's meant to look like. So extra virgin olive oil, not using that, just got some normal olive oil, and I won't use 3 tablespoons anyway, that's a bit far too much for me personally. Chestnut mushrooms finely chopped, a red onion, tomato puree, garlic cloves, rigatoni or whatever pasta that you have. Panko breadcrumbs is more for the end, just for sprinkling, and a bit of salt and pepper to taste. Now, what have I got that what I'm going to do? So obviously I'm not going to use the loads of oil. I've not got chestnut mushrooms, but I have got mushrooms that I've already had in the freezer. So I'm just going to use them. I have a red onion. I've got my pre-done garlic that we bought last month, I think it was, or was it the beginning of this month? Anyway, we went to a world food place and they had loads of garlic for £3. So we broke it all up, found some that had little stems growing, so we've kept those, and those are growing in the garden. The rest, we just took all the skins off, food processor, and then spread it out, froze it, but cut it into sort of like sections before we froze it. We've got our tomato concentrate, so we're pretty much ready to go. So it says heat 2 tablespoons in mushrooms, salt and pepper, stir 5 minutes. And then add the onion. I'm going to start with the onion because obviously I've pre-cooked these mushrooms. So it just needs to make sure that we can get some colour on the onions and the mushrooms are cooked down and all the moisture has gone. And then we'll go up to where we're next. I just gave the mushrooms an extra chop while they were on my chopping board. That's cooked down now. We're going to add our garlic and our tomato puree, which I should have opened before doing that. Now it says 8 tablespoons of tomato puree. Now I'm not making the full portion, so I'm going to put in about 5. This is quite a lot, but it's quite a rich ragu. So that's, I think just one more of those because I'm kind of going heaped, if you can see. There we go. And then I'm just going to mix that up. It doesn't say to cook off the tomato puree. It just says to gently fry in the mix. At the same time, fill a pan with salted water, bring to the boil, and obviously cook your pasta. So I'm just going to let this do this thing, and I will boil some water in the kettle to get that going. And then basically we're just going to cook the pasta and then add it to the sauce. Right, so this is all nicely done. Basically what you do is you put the pasta in just before it's cooked completely, and then add some pasta water until you get like it describes it as a silky sauce. If you want to do some breadcrumbs, you can, but I'm going to taste this. I have put on some fresh basil because I have got a basil plant growing and it asks for fresh basil. So we're going to do this and taste this and see how it gets on. My main thing is, does it have enough seasoning? Because I have put salt and pepper on as well, but there's not many herbs. It's just the fresh basil, but let's see. Surprisingly, that is really good. That is really, really tasty. I'm quite impressed with that. So we're going to dish that up for tea. The recipe we're going for next is this red cashew curry. It looks really nice. We've got pretty much all the ingredients. So I'm just going to quickly go through that. Onion, garlic, ginger. I think I've got ginger. Yes, I have got some ginger in the fridge. Chilies, I've not got fresh ones, but I've got dried. Curry powder, tomato puree, aubergine, stock, coconut milk, lentils, cashews, mixed peppers. Well, I've got my own mixed peppers that I just kind of had in. A head of broccoli or some tender stem broccoli. Well, I've got mixed broccoli and cauliflower, so I'll just take out the broccoli and use that. And then lime for flavouring at the end, and white rice if you want it as well. So I read through the instructions, and it's pretty much a throw it in a pan thing. Start with your onion, garlic, ginger, chilies, curry powder, tomato, aubergine, fry for a bit. Then add all the other stuff, stock, cashew milk, lentils, not cashew milk, coconut milk, lentils, cashews, cover and heat for 15 minutes. And then add your peppers and broccoli and cook for 10 more minutes. Not too bad, I thought. However, then I read this bit, slow cooker. Throw all into a slow cooker and cook on low for 5 hours. Yay! That's what we're going to do instead. We're just going to pop all the ingredients in the slow cooker and let it do its thing, which I really, really love doing. So like I say, I've got my peppers that I've frozen myself. I've got my broccoli and cauliflower, which I will just separate out. I've got my garlic that we prepped. If you've not seen how much garlic I got loads. And then I've got my tomato puree, my chili, my curry powder, onion, aubergine, coconut milk. This is not my favourite coconut milk, but it will do the job. If I was using my favourite Lidl coconut milk, I would only be using half the can because it is 84% coconut. So then you can just decant half of it out, freeze the other half and use that. But with this one, because it's only 50% I'm going to use the whole can. I have got some stock powder, I have got my lentils, I have got some cashews. It is all going in there, and then we will see what it looks like in 5 hours time. There we go, everything's in there, all the spices and tomato puree, everything's all on the top. What I will do is I will now pour on I put in stock powder, so I'm just going to pour my water on top, make sure everything gets covered. I'm probably going to have to come back in here in a little bit and just make sure my broccoli is chopped a bit smaller because the chunks I had were quite big. I mean, that's not the biggest one, there were even bigger ones than that. But basically, lid on and forget. One of my favourite ways of cooking. So this curry is done and dusted, and it's now up to us whether we have it with rice or just naan breads or no, not lentils, noodles. So let's give it a bit of a taste. Yeah, I'm just going to be breathless again. Excuse me. And obviously it's going to be piping hot. You can see it absolutely bubbling away. Let's give this a bit of a blow and a taste. That is really, really nice. Lovely, spicy, tasty, nice tomatoey flavour to it. That's really, really good. So we've obviously made a load of it because we've done it in the slow cooker. So that is going to last us ages. We're going to decant the rest of that into portions and throw it in the freezer. It's a little bit spicy. I'm sure Chris will be fine once we add some rice to it. That's really quite good. The next recipe we are trying out is the best pan-fried crispy tofu, because apparently This recipe has reached #1 on Google searches for crispy tofu for good reasons. And it's the nicest looking crispy tofu I have seen in a book. Now, I've cooked tofu before, but I can never quite get it as good looking as this. So I'm hoping that this is what it's going to look like at the end. Simple ingredients: tofu, soy sauce, corn flour, oil, honey. So I've removed the moisture from my tofu. I've given it a squash and a squeeze. I've used the extra firm Tofu brand because that does seem a lot firmer and has a lot less water in it. And basically we're just going to add the cubes into 1 tablespoon of soy sauce to coat the tofu, and then we're going to cover the tofu in some corn flour, and that is going to be the thing that's hopefully going to get it nice and crispy. I've got my oil going ready, so that's what we're going to start to do. Right, I used a sieve, which is what it recommended. It's a sift the corn flour over the tofu, tossing to encourage, a consistent coverage, which is what I have done. So I'm now going to put it into the pan. Hopefully we should get a little bit of a sizzle. Yes, I'm having slight sizzle noises. I'm going to finish putting all that in there, and then in the bowl where I originally put the soy sauce, we're going to make our sticky sauce with the rest of some more soy sauce and some honey. Right, I've just flipped this, and you can tell I don't know if you probably can't hear through the fact that I've got the dishwasher on and the fact that the fat's spitting, that they are going crispier. So I'm just going to keep frying these for another couple of minutes. They have, like I say, already flipped. And then I'm going to add this soy sauce and honey. If you're wondering why there's bits of lumps in there, it's because my honey's solidified, because we don't use it very often, but that'll soon melt down once we chuck it in there and toss everything in it. Right, I'm going to give this a try now. It's going to be nuclear hot because obviously honey, etc. and soy. So, lovely on the inside. Hopefully crispy on the outside. It definitely will be sticky. Let's give this a try. Really tasty. Not as crispy as I thought it was going to be. It's still nice though. I think I would possibly crisp it even further than the 2 to 3 minutes it says on each side. But overall, I know that sauce is going to be super, super good and super, super tasty. So I'm going to finish off this piece, and then we're going to dish it up with some rice and some veggies. Tonight's recipe is miso noodle bowls because I wanted something quite quick, but also that looks delicious. And I love noodly, miso-y things. Now, I've looked at the ingredients and I know I've got vegetables in that need using. I don't have any pak choi. I don't have any spring onions, but I do have mushrooms. And we have stock, we have miso paste, soy sauce, all those kinds of things. But what I'm going to do instead for the vegetables is we're going to have a root in the fridge and see what we can use. Right, so I have some asparagus that's starting to look a little bit sad. So I'm going to use this up in there. I've got onion, so instead of spring onion, I'm going to finely slice some of that red onion. I've also got these mushrooms at the back that we're going to use, and I've got a load of carrots in here, so I'm going to use at least 1 carrot. Well, maybe not quite 1 carrot, 1 small carrot. That'll use some of that up because I'm going to very finely julienne that, and that will help use up a little bit of extra stuff that we've got in the fridge. Now, this recipe is meant to be a lunchtime recipe, a dump it in a container, take it out, cook it in the microwave recipe, but I'm just making it slightly different. So I've slightly cooked my mushrooms because I like them cooked. I put in the miso paste. I'm going to put in the vegetables that we've got. There we go. And so the miso paste is in there as well. Stock cube is in there as well. I didn't use my bouillon powder because I thought it'd just be a little bit too intense of a flavour. And then we're going to pour in a load about 700, 800 mils of liquid. Let this cook. Now, in the recipe, you'd be cooking this for a couple of minutes in the microwave. I'm just going to cook this for a couple of minutes before I put the veggies in. No, before I put the noodles in, because I know that the flavour's going to develop. I'm also going to put some soy sauce in as well. This is the last of my soy sauce, so that's going in as well. And also, I want these veggies just to cook for a couple of minutes. Like I say, I cut my mushrooms a little bit to start with. I'm not going to put the onions in yet, because I want those to have like a bit of a bite. I'm going to put my noodles in shortly. I've got rice vermicelli noodles. These are not skinny noodles, but they are slightly thin. So these are going to take a slight minute longer to cook. So, like I say, I'm just going to give this a couple of minutes to get going, get back up to the boil, and then I'm going to put my noodles in. So I've just cooked this on the hob long enough to make sure that the noodles are cooked, because that's slightly more noodly and that's slightly more soupy. I'm going to put a little bit of just this raw onion on top to represent the spring onion that we don't have. I'm also going to put a little bit of lemon juice as opposed to lime, because we don't have lime. And then I'm going to taste. Now, this is not going to be massively protein heavy, because obviously no protein that much in it. There's some protein in the noodles, so you could throw in some tofu, you could throw an egg on top. I'm going to taste this. That is really nice. The basic stock of this is delicious. I'm just going to show you again the ingredients. It's basically stock cubes, miso paste, soy sauce, rice vinegar optional, lime juice to taste. I've not got any rice vinegar, but the lime juice, or lemon juice in this case, gives it a really good flavour. Really, really tasty. So we've got a spoon to serve, but also a fork for the noodles. There we go. That is going to be delicious. And that's tea for tonight. So now we've done some of the recipes, let's have a quick look through the book. So as you can see, library. So she has got in this book top tips for budgeting, cupboard essentials, how the book works, then a whole section on the recipes, some shopping and planners, which was really good. I did like the top tips for budgeting, plan, crossover ingredients, love your freezer. I love my freezer. Shopping around, bulk buying and meal prep. What do we do from this? Plan. I look at what we need in terms of going shopping, but I don't always have a plan 100% for what we're going to cook in the week. I have some rough ideas, but don't necessarily plan everything. Yes, crossover ingredients. There are so many recipes that I use. So many. Onions, peppers, mushrooms are my 3 favourite vegetables, and I use them in a lot of my recipes, so I will always use those as my crossover. You know I love my freezer. I've made freezer meals. That is part of meal prepping. I'll put some links in the description box on my freezer meals that I have done. Shopping around. I don't shop around that much because I tend to go to the same place most weeks. I occasionally will do a shop somewhere else if I've got some vouchers or if I've got a good deal or a discount. Mostly because I have the car one day to go shopping with my dad. We go to Tesco's and that's where we do our shopping because it works out most convenient, and it means I'm not having to go out and do a second shop because my dad wants to shop at Tesco's. That's his shop. Bulk buying, I do sometimes. I've mentioned this in a video I did about top 10 frugal habits that we have. We bulk buy certain things, but not everything. You've got to think about what it's worth for you. But I do buy things and freeze them, which, you know, back to love your freezer. Meal prep, we've talked about that. I like this list of cupboard essentials. A lot of these we have. Let me go through anything we don't have. Maple syrup, don't really have. Yes, we use all of those. I don't have all those vinegars. I have a bit of white wine vinegar, I think. Possibly. Apple cider vinegar is the one I use more than anything. You know my spice drawer is vast, to say the least. I love my herbs and spices. So we're all in there with all those different kinds. Oils, I mostly just use olive oil. Like I say, then we go into how the book works. And breakfast, soup, salads, weekday dinners, one pot wonders. The one thing I did like about this is that she does give you other ideas, like you can meal prep it, it's air fryer suitable, or you can do it in the slow cooker, which gives you options on how to do it. She said she created the recipes £1.25 per portion or less, so that might go differently in this book nowadays. She also gives you some tags as well, so you know what kind of meals you are getting. Then we go to the back of the book, and she has got some meal plans, tells you the 5 things that you're going to make that week, and gives you the shopping list, which I think is a great idea. Again, more meal plans, shared ingredients, that's a good idea. Purchase some cost-saving ways to do things. So this is quite a decent book. So overall, what are we thinking? Overall, this book I really quite enjoyed. There were a lot of other recipes in there that I would have cooked as well if we'd have had those ingredients in. But what I am going to do is I'm going to take a photograph of some of those recipes and use them possibly in the future. And you can see by the side that I did find quite a few tagged places to pick out different recipes. So there was a good option of lots of different vegetarian ones in there, which was really, really good, because I find some places, some recipe books don't have a massive vegetarian section. So in conclusion, are we going to buy, borrow or bin it? Well, we're definitely not binning it. We'll probably borrow it again. And I'd say for a lot of people, it might be worth buying this one and keeping it in your cupboard. So I'm giving this one a buy or borrow rating depending on what your needs are. Thanks for watching. I hope you're enjoying this series. This is our second video based on a budget saving cookbook. Look out for future ones, and I will put a link to the previous one somewhere over here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.